이 주로도 못들이 다다. 전나 무구시 바데 들이 그때서 보고 something 그가 무지 마찬가지로 이 책이 동다데 이 책다 쳐보가리 무지만 마찬가지로 이 무지에 대와 쳐버리 말아서 양이 제일 양성 이 무지 가도 살아도 남자도랑 sem도 이랑 sem는 거요리 이랑 sem는 무지 바리구나 무지 바데 가리 나 코와 동네를 타고 너 로티 뗄무 바시거리 그 뗄을 무 바고는 산속심을 그 바셔고 이시 산속심을 그 바셔고 랑 동네를 타를 돌아 산속심을 그 바셔고 그래 산속심을 그 바셔고 그래서 즈바고 그래 그때 또 산속심이 저기 오마다 그래 저기 문이 저기를 낳고 요말이 세계 비슷하네. 세계 비슷한 관리는 세계 강한 제거고 말이. 야, 사자 집에 따라 더 손하더니 다들 라마를 세면이나 사자 집어 도그레스. 사자 집어 통나더니 다다 사자 집어 거 봐지. 그 당시에 돈 담고 있는 분들이 사자 집어 송 기지시라고 저기 송을 님보들 빼지 책대 누가 치르라고도 님보들 빼피송. 너희들 사자 집어 집어도 강해 오래들. 사자 제모들이 하고나 강리 하고나 되니까도 잡으면 뭐라는 대니를 상제에 때 말했지 호환자들 라고 내려 그래 정부 꼼짝에서는 라시 상제에 이제 뭐 맛이 나도 죽고 이제 돈 마도 막이 6만 이제 좀 많이 라람 내려 이제 이 맛이는 돈 라람 시바세 주탑지 내려 라람 샘 나도 잘 센데 랑합 샘 가래리 랑합 샘 남도베 샘 가래리 남도베 탑트 가래리더니 남민서 합제 사치 독진 따와 야 들이 사치 독진 사치 가래리 샘 다지지마 요 말에서 또바지리스 오 또바지 샘 다지니지 메버 샘들 쳤디라 들이 샘도 나가다 차데 요리스 사자 좀 소리도 좀 때리 사자 얘는 이와 지금 사자 집어 사과들은 똥반이래지 똥반이 가래지 나지지요 말이지 그 범바 똥반이니 범바 똥반이 그쪽 범바니 다 싸고 요리지 나 주사고 요리지 별로 동보들을 야가만 거리 동보때 야가 카카소서 싸고 요리지 동보지 그때는 야가때 동보지 카카 말이지 대다 내록 집아들들이 그럼 지는 지나 잡서 내록도 집아 공는 매송 맹아도 그는 송 요리 뒤에 탐식, 개바 탐식의 송, 개바 탐식의 송가리, 개바 송 말아리비, 세다 남과 체라 미나스, 사자 제모디, 사르드 똥바지 자 제보레지, 자치 주디 체가로 남과리, 따뜻 제 사자 저 똥바지 자 제보들이 되면 지마 요 말했지. 대회 다 사자 제보고 말았더니, 마디들이 들이 사자 집어 뭐 말은 가지 çıkar는 대송이 심리전 남파 양발아 심리전 남파 양발아 이놈도 그런 소마 대라 진이 제사karme 왜 심도들은 이들어지 심도들이 이 라오리 남도 마지 남도 독주마다 파야쇼스 뭐도 받대 대자절 생각하는 남가다고 가는 거 말이지. 대선 거래 전 노질 됐다 그래.
So, my friends, come back to our the guru devotion that we talked about before. So there's this quote by Thich Nhat Hanh elsewhere, where he says that unless the sun of devotion shines upon the snow mountain of the Guru's four kayas, the current or the stream of blessings will not emerge, and so forth. So this the sun of devotion is the crucial point that we are speaking about here, and also we take the quote by Milarepa that you mentioned before on devotion as a basis. And then take that quote by Thigten Sungön and look at your mind. As we mentioned before, you don't see the Buddha outside, but he's within your own mind. So you have to look at your own mind. So within your own mind, what is devotion? What does devotion actually mean? So the Tibetan term devotion consists of actually two words. So it's mögu, and mö means like an aspiration. So first you have mö, you have an aspiration. I want to become liberated from the suffering of samsara. So if that is your aspiration, then you need to pay respect to bodhicitta. So that's the second syllable. Gu means to respect. So you have an aspiration to be free from suffering, and therefore you must respect the mind of bodhicitta. And so if you want to become free from suffering, you need to cultivate bodhicitta, or in other words, you need to cultivate patience. And bodhicitta is like the milk of a lion. So it's not actually a real lion now, it's just an example. And the reason why the lion is taken as an example is because the lion doesn't have to be afraid of any other animal. When it comes to the realization of the view of Mahamudra, so the guru tells you practice Mahamudra. This is the view of Mahamudra, and now meditate. And that's the essence of the ultimate Dharma. It is the view of Mahamudra. And Kenshin Sherab was very kind to kind of rephrase it to, instead of the fivefold, into the five essences. Because if we see it as an essence, then it becomes even more powerful, and it really helped my own understanding a lot. And so now Mahamudra, so how can we understand it? In the Samantabhadra prayer it says, if you recognize it, you are a Buddha. Not recognizing it, you are a sentient being wandering in samsara. So recognizing it is the nature of the mind. And Chamgyön Kongtrul had said that I have not recognized my own mind to be Buddha. I have not realized that thoughts are Dharmakaya. I have not seen the innate the innate nature of my mind. I have not developed trust. I have not truly trusted in my true nature. And that is my true nature in the natural innate state. So the natural innate state is the state of mind that is free of all thinking, of all discursive thoughts. So again, the natural state of the mind is just that. It's just the thought-free mind. And in order to come to that state, to realize it, that there is, for example, the method of the practice blessing lineage, such as the view of Mahamudra or Dzogchen. In the Mahamudra teachings, the instruction says, there is no duality within the mind. There is no self and other. Your mind is empty. And look at the mind that is without self and other, where self and other are inseparable. That mind is like space. And that is the actual meaning of Mahamudra and nothing else. So that is the meaning of emptiness. So the term Mahamudra, this mudra part, is that it refers to the vast emptiness. And so the way we often understand emptiness is just an empty space, like you have two vases that represent self and other, and then the emptiness inside those vases is one and the same. So now when you look at two vases, you think that there is two. So you think that there's you and me, which is just like thinking that, if you are a branch of a tree, you think that the other branches of the tree are all separate from you. When in reality, they're not separate, they're all connected to the same trunk, which represents the nature of the mind. Also, Longchen Rabcham had said again in the Menga Tzu, the Treasury of Pith Instructions, he said that when you When you realize the natural state of the mind, there is no higher learning than that. And that corresponds to all the words by the great scholars and also the accomplished masters. For example, Milarepa, who had said, mind and space are inseparable. So in Mahamudra, the mudra and part represents is a sign of vast emptiness, or it means vast emptiness. So the measure of mind is in infinity, like space. Space is infinite. And so emptiness is infinite. And that's what it is and nothing else. That is the true essence of Mahamudra. So in the fivefold path of Mahamudra, also in a different song, Thigten Somgen said in the verse on Mahamudra, he said that unless the clouds of discursive thinking vanish into the open sky of the mind itself, the twofold wisdom of the planets and the stars will not emerge, will not be revealed. Therefore, apply yourself with diligence in non-conceptuality. So actually, from this perspective, it's quite simple. Simply don't cling to your thoughts. Don't analyze your thoughts. Just let them be. And that itself is non-conceptuality. So there is nothing, no thought. There's nothing at all that exists within the space-like mind. So therefore, if you just let whatever arises be, that is all that need to be done in realizing the mind as Mahamudra.
가리 남도 생 초아대 초아메가 차도래 들이 이게 딱지 양대한다는 들이 초아 제거 들이 생은 차로 차들이 거기 이 차요래지 데이터 차를 하고 데이터 하고 그러더니 너는 남도 좀 맞는 남도 좀 대시 봐대 남도 미줘야 요 말 남도 좀하면은 남도 쳐달랍지들이 쳐달랍지들 생活속다 탐지 족신에 대해서 그러래 남도의 샘지 잡도다 그래지 남도 말았다 그래지 샘지 남갔다 그래지 속들이 남가라지 총처래지 좀 딱 걸 대기요 말 좀 맞는 바로 그래 남도 로를 차가데 마진이 대가리지 마진이 닌지 보고 싸고 말이 다 강소는 되네. 내력들이 만들어와서 내력들이 만들어가리 사자지 뭐 사지 가가면 타톡을 못 붙여가리 그냥 뭐 실랍대 줄라수 있어. 내 말이야 마사 내가 말이 마사 철생 내력들이 되잖아. 그 말도 그랬고요. 내가 말이지. 그래서 좀 왔다 와서 그럼 그때가 나왔던지 좀 왔다 그랬지. 내가 딱 보신 감탄마다 봐서 저랑 그러나 박차래 라는 나와래서 그 라리서 되면 돈다고 내만 통소나 나왔을 때 다 주는 거래. semji tongpa tachu chasar sem khoni tongpa ni na nakwa tawa ni na dina sharangwa tamche dini lowa kichik mataba dima tawa song de nawa dima rang ji na pe te ya yore de tawa ta hong kwa ke de de yang dang de ko ne dong nyang se ba ka re na to ka shi ya de de zong de me da te ka pa yo yo ka re yo se ta ram ti chi ru pa te ke ti chi ru pa na de ja na 파 요거만 설린 거요만이 랑이가 되더니 랑이가 받쳐면 로요 빼나 내가 말하리 배송은 곰 집어도 가장 기본 문제서 곰te 곰을 줘서면 곰들을 다 제거하고 열이 빼나 문제들이 곰 잡았다 뭐 잡았다 이요래 밤에 그걸 곰 잡고 당연히 곰 고쳐 싸워서 제발 곰지 이거 될 저거 그래 저 다동거지 무슨 남자는 저거 곰지 곰때 가리 곰도 공거리지 너도 팔 줘야 돼 나도 줘야 될 공거리지 데이터가 송선이 리 사월이 좀 방에 송리더니 사회 이 마치바 생지상저 나도 사진 독지 깨다치 뭐레 또부터 로망고로 또부터 봐 말이 사회 이 마치바 생지상저 이 사월도 가리 그냥 실랍도 줄었듯이 같이 강하면 됐대. 너도 정도. 나도 사는 지시 제시 나도 사는 자잖아. 그리 남까도 쳐달랍잖더니 남까도 좀 타바니더니 사람 뛰는 남까 탐성. 그래서 나도 박차에 좋고요 말이. 박차 좋아하지 시합도 좋고 나도 박차도 말을 봐 가래도. 뒤리 때문에 네가 돼야 뭐지 뒤도 돼서 당들이 치아라고 차단이 하래. 차를 내도 하래. 이 집에 받는 차바바바는 이거. 내려더니 차바바바는 이게 내lok더니 마인과 되잖아. 초라카 바바는 차로 쏘도 하지. 그때 쏘고 그 sakchi rikki songla chola kaga papa den go yes ba me be senti ta den chola ka papa den dili chogo cha dili kamba yo ma ba dili chama de jegni shiro yo la shiro senti shiro sem shiro ma ludi shiro le de ma yin sa de ludi de ma ta le de shiro ma ta de dona sem che she me ba ha ko ta 동바 이제 다 성어 때문에 다들 싸워도 김이 싸동 다들 주저거서 다 사자지 보고 말하는데 김이 싸동 다들 주저거지 기아미 받는 생活내로도 다 삭심이 독심이 강념이 생활 내로시 그 인식 생 강념이 너무 강이 지주지 좋았던 영향을 강이야 맞지 뭐야 이 쌀들은 지와면 쌀들이 축구 마케팅도 로고도 남시를 받는 마토버는 남시에 마토버는 남시데 나도 남시데 나오냐 반다 코는 로요래 남도데 뭐데 때나 심시 시바들 딱제 당거래 심시 시바들 싸우 하고는 디싸워지 시바들 뭐를 때나 가야는 쌀 남가다 오지 쌀을 시바 싸워도 돼. 내가 낚시 싸워도 돼. 나오는 거다 낚시. 나니님은 독서 다 나오냐 봐 똥살아. 나니님은 남카르티는 예미 살도 똥들 남카다 차도 남카르니도 왜 남카르니요만. 다음에 남카르님은 독서. 생코라는 이 야차 잡는 독서들이 지들이 제거래. 딱지에 땅에 사지 깔아 딱지에 땅고 오성 또바디 또록대 다대 또록 나고 다된 좀 한강 당분 좀 한거고 강릉에 맞아 야 그 코토만 매바 차트 나오 냐마들 남이기 요거래 딱 나기지 돈이 나기지 뭐 독지 바바 또바디 차성은 난 또바디 제발만 독지 야송만 독지 데이터 하고 제메 살 동지 당분 강릉에 맞지와 강릉 마서봐 제가 내 섬자와 다른 데 시행요래 다보 제와 매 바들 강릉 맞지 강릉 마송 랑송 야 가드는 미러줘요 말이 줄리 잡차만 보 색성을 샘드시야요 말이 레칼라칼이 뒤지서는 나오냐만 뒤지는 도로도 공문도고요 야 감이지 네들은 다 가야 되는 어떻게 룰러내요 그러지 룰이 시행로도 다 생각하야 되거든 당연 내가 배지. 당연 내가 배지. 제가 내 성도 잡아도 세문대로 하면 꼭 강의한 맞지. 꼭 가도 잡아도 따뜻해 싸워 세는 독디 따뜻히 독 싸는 독 마상서 무엇이 막당지 지금 강을 털어야야 얼마나 따뜻을 농락을 왜 타지는 오면 따와지. 오면 따와 가르치는 파고를 야 다 사자고 띄엄마 셈라도 줄지. 어쨌든 마삼 생사 동크잖아. 싸와도 뭐 또 만나 갔다 뛰는데 세분 이런 게 되레스. 다사 또 나 갔다 와야지. 들sem다 나 같이 매 봤다 와야지. 들 똑같이 뭐는데 영력 마음 좋지. 영력 마음 좋지 영들이. 영지 아마도 나 가도 영다버리지. 생존하지 뭔가 니나 잡을 사단돼요. 뭐적다고 차대요. 네, 두저 걸로 사투좀 걸로서 난 두저 걸로들은 가사 속차 차와지나 루사강다고 차대리지. 루셈이가 냠대 요래지. 남 두저 걸로서 이 두저 걸로 내 명이 속나 다고 당신 가면 거서 마음이 놓아도 내가 들은 차론도 차안 거리지. 그래서 사투저 걸로 남 두저 걸로 이 두저 걸로서 마사를 주대 털 text를 시작해요래. 데이터 송송도나 미 사동 탑달 취직거든. 다 딱지 땅 타마동 세분내로 은혜서 다 딱지 마땅시. 때문에 대통대다 시합라고 이제 이사 취직이 사와 강제 딱지 땅 대통거든. 로요래. 생내록대 딱지 마땅시. 내록대 딱지 땅을 들이다. 이제 말해 돼. 세분내록 하나 전에 내록 또나 지금 돈을 매송 continuo 이제 송대 일송 세바 탐지가 송송 아주고 책다 저도 디바지 먹고 말이야 롱력 빠르티 말아리 버송한테 야론신함 야송한테 제소가 버송한테 랑톤랑선 대탑제송한테는 대주 최선 파체 용도요 말이야 책들이 주바 주고 말이야 돈지 돌리 들이랑 그때 양이 있잖아 가지는 대장이 때 들이 맞대로 들이나 이것들이 고로 책들이 하고 영상 말아리 다다들이 고아들이 고거리 저들이 저들 대책 라탑제들 다 고아들 고거리 로제를 들리들 로제를 라운동이 있지 나는 잘도 대통 매봐요 요소 말아리 비서 말이 대책 나도 고는 드라그 나도 싸와줘 로제를 들 라운동이 나는 잘성 말아리 비서 tam이 신어야 고성 그래서 특히 사통 탑다 취거죠 어tel 맨갈 다 죽어야지 다 죽어난 거 같다 버들 디들이 사지 세지 카카요 말이 되네. 사지 탐지 자와탐지 시롱도 찍지. 이시다 센남카다 랑나가 셈 다다 남치대 이시는 보러 생활하고 그래. 남치대 이시는 하마오는 남치대 중거리야. 나오냐 봐요. 나진이 되지요래. 이시하고서는 세분 내려가고서는 이시대사들 이시받으는 거래. 새도 토마면이 없어. 망바라 독스 가지고 그 제셔도 없어는 딱 그것도 정말 원하는 순간이 네 스스로 직접 나타나면 너무나 착각해서 생고 내lok들 데이터를 잡을 사강 토소는 남과시켜 말이에요. 우리 야요 말 센터 남과 체비라서 말할게 빼줘야 데이터를 써놓았다면 데이터다 재미사동 탑다 추적거든. 주까지 용tin 시에는 게 디바다 라고 고초다 고아거든 시에나 데리 저것들은 시에들이 다 당들 데리 기본적인 다다 요래 공부 같은 것들이 참아는 데 저야 나요 이제 개고래지.
So in that quote by Jigten Sumgön, it said, unless the clouds of conceptual thinking or the discursive thoughts vanish into the sky of the mind itself. So when you look at the mind, at first you see many thoughts in the mind. But even though you see those thoughts in the mind, when you don't grasp at these thoughts, then that is when they vanish on their own into the sky of mind itself. And then the planets and stars of the twofold wisdom or knowledge will reveal themselves. The twofold knowledge is the knowledge of how things really are and the knowledge of how many things there are, the extent of things that there are. So the knowledge of things, how they really are, refers to the knowledge of the ultimate truth. And then the knowledge of the extent of things is the relative truth. That even though there is the ultimate truth of how things actually are, there still is the illusion-like manifestations of samsara and nirvana. And they all arise interdependently. And that interdependent arising is their empty nature. So also regarding the twofold knowledge, Khenpo Tenzin can explain that to you in much more detail. You can also ask him questions. Also, right now, our time is very limited, and also I don't know how to explain that so well. But also it is said in the Karma Kagyu prayer that in their prayer festival, in that prayer book, it says there is nothing, anything at all can arise. Although nothing at all inherently exists, anything at all can arise. So anything at all can arise, although it lacks inherent existence. So from the perspective of the ultimate truth, nothing at all inherently exists, meaning that there is no duality, no separately existing things that exist. It is just that because we perceive things in a dualistic way, that we think that there is this great diversity of different beings and everything appears in a dualistic way. And so that is what we call the dualistic phenomena. And all dualistic phenomena are compounded phenomena. And it is said that whatever is compounded is impermanent by nature. Also in the Daglong Kagyu prayer, it speaks about that all appearance of samsara and nirvana is illusory by nature. So as long as we see things in a dualistic way, we experience suffering. In particular, the beings in the three lower realms experience tremendous suffering. And all of that ultimately is illusory. And how is it illusory? For example, now it is just like creating a film, like on a TV show, like a film. So it is because of the karmic imprints that we have accumulated in the mind that this various illusory manifestations appear, just like when we are making a film. For example, the karmic imprints are like the clips that we record when we are creating a film. And so due to the karmic imprints that have been reinforced since beginningless time. There is a solid perception of there being a self and also the existence of others. So we perceive a duality of self and other. We think that there is me and then there is them and him and so on. So these imprints are accumulated continuously day and night. The Samantabhadra prayer says the imprints gradually grow stronger and thicker. So many imprints are accumulated that lead to a certain manifestation. And this is very similar to the creation or the production of a film, when you're making a film. So for example, when you're making a film of a clip of somebody who is first lying down in their bed and then they're getting up, so you keep taking a picture of the picture as they're getting up from their bed, and then they move around and they speak to others. And while this happens in a short time, countless pictures are being taken, and when these pictures are all put together, it creates the illusion. Even though you have static pictures, it creates the illusion of someone actually of movement and something happening. And so similarly, we create this illusion of samsara through accumulation of many imprints in our mind. And there are many more in-depth explanations on that, but in brief, the karmic imprints amassed create the illusion of a dualistic existence. And to someone who has seen the ultimate truth, they can see that that doesn't actually inherently exist. But they do not think that it doesn't exist. There is no thought. They do not think things are real, nor do they think that things are not real. Whatever arises, they simply let it be, and then whatever arises will disappear on its own accord, just like a wave subsiding back into the water. And this is what we call liberation. So liberation means the liberation from discursive thinking. And it also entails a lack of feeling. So there is no feeling at all left behind. So it has completely disappeared, dissipated back into the mind. Then, of course, if we analyze a certain situation with a dualistic perception and we keep thinking about it over and over again, then that feeling doesn't disappear. The feeling just grows stronger and stronger. Or the ice block solidifies more and more. And so then that is what creates the appearance of this duality of samsara and nirvana. So with that understanding, one should recognize that whatever thought arises in the mind, let it be as it is, and it will vanish back into the sky of the mind itself, just like a cloud vanishing into the sky. So you don't actually have to think it has to go away. You don't have to make it go away, but you just simply don't cling to it. And if you don't grasp whatever arises, it will subside on its own, just like a wave on water or like a cloud in the sky. And this is also how it is explained in the Dzogchen teachings, for example. So it explains how the mind, the thoughts arising in the mind subside just like waves on water or like clouds in the sky. And the sky is like an example of the empty mind. The clouds or the thoughts appearing in the sky are not separate from the sky, but they are a magical display of the sky itself. They are like the illusory play of the mind itself. Illusory because they will not stay. They will always go away on their own accord. If you simply don't grasp at them, they will just go away. So the key point is not to grasp. There is no need to think that these thoughts need to go away. I don't want these thoughts. Simply stay within a thought-free mind without grasping at anything whatsoever. In the Ganges Mahamudra, the Ganges Mahamudra really gives an ultimate introduction by just saying, without a single thought, decisively look at your true nature. Without a single thought, meaning do not think it is real and do not think that it is not real. Without a single thought, you just stay in the natural state of the mind. And whatever arises then will not stay. It will go away on its own. Therefore, it is explained to be just like an illusion. All appearances of samsara and nirvana are illusions. All pure and impure appearances. For example, the pure appearances of the Pure Lands and the impure appearances of samsara. They all are a self-projection, a manifestation of one's own mind. It is also explained in the 37 Bodhisattva practices that the way things appear is your own mind. When you see the ultimate truth, you will resolve that all appearances are my own mind. The way I perceive things is my own mind. And appearances are only temporary. They are impermanent. They arise momentarily and then they're gone. And that is the meaning of the illusory nature of appearances. They will not remain. So first you need to understand that and then reflect upon this understanding over and over again. So it becomes an actual practice. And so then it happens in a very direct way once you have habituated to it. So now currently, when we grasp at a dualistic existence of subject and object, of self and other, without a single thought, you let it all be, and you rest within clear awareness. And within clear awareness, there is nothing to be adopted and nothing to be rejected. You just let it all be as it is naturally, and then the feelings, the appearances that have arisen will naturally disappear on their own. And so that corresponds to the words by Milarepa, as we mentioned before. And also previously, Garchen Rinpoche had explained this. But so the meaning of meditation now, how we habituate this. So the meaning of meditation, etymologically, is from a kind of grammatical perspective, is it means to habituate. So there is an act, an actual, like as an actor, someone who is doing something, someone who an act of habituation. And so, for example, you're thinking, I am meditating, I'm habituating. And so actually what meditation really means is that there is no actual deliberate act or actor of meditation, but it is a simple process of habituation. And what needs to be habituated is the letting be of arising thoughts. So from that perspective, then it becomes quite easy. It is actually also said that it is because it is too easy, because it might be too easy, people will not trust in it. So now we make it something very fancy. We call it Mahamudra and Dzogchen, so it seems to be something really special. And we are sort of left even after many years not having realized it. And that might also be because it is so easy that it is incomprehensible, that we just don't trust it because it's too easy. We think it has to be something very unique or special. So all it really is as it is said in the Genji's Mahamudra book, without a single thought, decisively look at your ultimate nature. Whatever thought arises in the mind, let it be. And then it will dissolve on its own, just like a wave just subsiding back into water or a cloud vanishing into the sky. And this is how, when awareness is sustained, you do not place a further imprint into the mind. So for as long as we keep placing imprints in the mind, we are in a state of ignorance. And so what is this state of ignorance? We think that, basically it means to think that whatever appears to us and how things appear to us, this is how it is, that's real. We think that this is real, and that person did something good to me, and that person did something bad to me. And so they are ignorance are really these thoughts of attachment and anger. And the subtle counterparts of attachment and anger are hope and fear. And these continuously, like snowflakes falling down, accumulate because we continuously habituate them due to a mind of unawareness or ignorance. So the key instruction is of Mahamudra, also as Jigten Sumgön had taught it in the co-emergent Mahamudra, is that simply let it be and rest in the natural state of the mind. Then all the thoughts arising are just like rain falling down and dissolving, or like snowflakes dissolving on a lake. But if you are unmindful, then these snowflakes accumulate and it grows into stronger and thicker layers. And then we die within such a state of clinging to the truth of our perceptions. However, the mind will not die. It is just the body that dies within such a state. The mind transcends birth and death. And so that is what must be recognized first in order to recognize emptiness. So in here, in the next line, in the next paragraph says, the Dharmakaya is unborn, empty clarity without extremes. So here we are moving onto the practice of Mahamudra. So unborn, the Dharmakaya is unborn. The nature of the mind is unborn. And this is also how we are often introduced when we are introduced to Mahamudra or Dzogchen. We are told that the mind is free of arising, abiding, and cessation. So really, without clinging to lofty terms of Mahamudra and Dzogchen and so on, all we are really speaking about here is the nature of the mind. So what is it? It is unborn, meaning that it has not arisen from anywhere. It is unarisen. But it is clear. So it is empty clarity. It hasn't arisen from anywhere, but there is still clear awareness. So for as long as we have not realized its nature, we call it the consciousness. And a consciousness perceives itself as an I. So there is this I, this concept of me, going around. And so then when you analyze, when you look into the mind with clear awareness, there is a clear knowing capacity that recognizes its own empty nature. So that is this empty clarity. So when you look at the essence of the mind, there is nothing to be found there, but there is clear awareness that is aware of its space-like empty nature. So there is an empty mind, but there is clear awareness that recognizes all thoughts that arise in the mind. So for as long as we perceive an I, that mind is called the consciousness. And then when you realize that there is no I, self and other are inseparable, then it is called the non-dual primordial awareness. So what becomes empty is this concept of me, this thought of an I. And then when you look at this space-like empty nature, it is recognized as unborn. Unborn, empty clarity. You recognize that because you understand, once you have understood that the mind is like space, you can understand that within space there's no duality, there's no two in space. And then you realize that, oh, my mind is also non-dual. There's no duality in my mind. So you come to like a 100% certainty that there is no no duality within the mind. So a trust arises. And so this is how it is said we should analyze the words of the Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha. So when we speak about emptiness, we also need to understand how things are empty, how the mind is empty. And so to understand that, we first must understand the source. Where does it come from? It comes from nowhere. It is unarisen or unborn. But since beginningless time, we have habituated to the karmic imprint of an I that actually does not exist. So that is the imprint that we have accumulated, and that arises continuously, but has no origin, no source it arises from. So it is the Dharmakaya is unborn, and so it is also explained that it is unborn, unabiding, and unceasing. So in the beginning, it doesn't come from anywhere. It has no source. This is also called self-arisen. It is self-arisen. Then in the middle, it never ceases to be. It cannot go out of existence. Even if you take birth hundreds of times in different bodies, the mind never ceases to be. The mind never dies. Taking birth over and over again is just like changing your clothing depending on your karma. And then the I continues to go on from life to life. But the mind itself never changes in any way. It's just the body. And so that's why we may think that the mind abides within the body. Now speaking about the mind has no abiding place. So it's unborn, it never ceases, and it abides nowhere. So we might think that the mind is in the body, but when the body disintegrates, then where is the mind? It's still there, but it has no abiding place. So this is how we understand the nature of the mind, as being without arising, cessation, or abiding. So when you meditate on that, you may think that there is a mind, or there is something, we can see things, but that is illusory. So don't think that there is anything that's actually there. Don't grasp at a concrete reality or your concept structures with regard to the various appearances. Just let things be as they are. For example, in the view of the Madhyamaka, the middle way, this is explained in terms of on the basis of the scriptures and logical reasoning. So how it is understood from that perspective is actually very similar to how it is explained in Mahamudra, where the key point is do not grasp. Do not have a single thought. Without a single thought, decisively look at your true nature. So do not think anything at all. Just stay in the clear and empty space-like nature of the mind and look at your true nature. That is like space. So that is just like in the Dzogchen teachings, it is that it is just this recognition is just like the meeting of expanse and awareness is like the meeting of a mother and her child, or the reunion of a mother with her child. And so here the expanse, the ultimate expanse, is the mother, and awareness is like the child. So they reunite. Also speaking about the expanse, the space element, or the 5 elements, actually are all complete within a person. So one person's body and mind are the microcosm of the entire outer universe and all beings. For example, that's how it is explained in the Kala Chakra teachings. This is how the Kala Chakra, this is referred to as the outer Kala Chakra, so how the universe is complete within one person. And then the inner Kala Chakra is that, and then the same is true for even the tiniest, the smallest life form, the most subtle life form. they also have a body and a mind. And within their body and mind, the entire universe and all beings are complete. And then the third one is the other color chakra. And that is when the mind has matured, then one's body and mind, or the elements and the mind, then mature into the appearance of the pure forms and the pure realms. In an unripe, immature state, temporarily, the mind then manifests the 6 realms of samsara. So in the new tantric system, in the Kala Chakra, for instance, this is explained as the outer, inner, and the other Kala Chakra. So the Dharmakaya is unborn, empty clarity without extremes. Also without extremes implies do not analyze anything. So when it comes to the nature of the mind, we should not analyze at all, and we should just rest and let things be. Otherwise, doubts will arise in the mind. And of course, when it comes to our activities in the world or in the Dharma, various activities, we do analyze things, and we have a kind of a doubtful or a kind of a critical mind in order to do things properly. But when it comes to looking at the nature of the mind, we do not analyze at all. We just rest in the natural state, letting it all be. So coming back to that quote by the omniscient Longchen Rabcham, and please remember this quote. So this quote said, "There is no higher learning than to realize the nature of the mind." So you should remember this quote. And so also then Khenpo can explain these words to you. And actually, even though my words are very brief, they still represent the essence and are in agreement with what the great scholars have said. And because they are based on the words of the great masters like Longchen Rabcham or Milarepa and also Je Tsongkhapa and so forth. And whether it is the scholars or the accomplished masters, there is they all are in agreement when it comes to that. There is no doubt about that. So there is no doubt about the authenticity of these words. So the essence is that if you understand this and you continue to engage in such practice, then one day it will become just natural. The thoughts will dissipate naturally. As we just mentioned before, as Milarepa had said, and so forth. And then confidence arises within you. And so now in the Mahamudra teachings, the various stages as to how we progress, it begins with the single-pointedness. The second stage is freedom from elaboration. So single-pointedness and freedom from elaboration follow the understanding that we have gained. And then on the basis of this understanding, as we habituate this understanding, one day we reach the view of the third stage, which is the stage of one taste. And then the understanding becomes experiential, a real experience. Then the true meaning of this self-arisen, non-dual primordial awareness will manifest directly, and you will become free of doubts at this point. So in the beginning, in the stage of single-pointedness, first the concepts are suppressed. And then in the second stage of freedom from elaboration, they no longer arise at all, so they become uprooted. And then within the stage of one taste, then everything that appears as one, as great equanimity. So this is also how Milarepa had explained it. So the Dharmakaya is like unborn, an empty space. And within that state, the Buddhas and sentient beings are not separate. It is also said within the expanse of primordial wisdom, all the Buddhas are one. So the mind of the Buddhas and your own mind, the outer space, is all one. When your own ordinary consciousness transforms into primordial wisdom, that is when you see the true nature of the mind. And so the fault of why we do not see it is because we still cling to the existence of an I. We perceive a duality of self and other. So once we understand the nature of the mind, what we understand is non-duality. And that is how then the consciousness is transferred or transforms into primordial wisdom. And at this point, you realize that this mind has been there since primordial times. It has always been there, and in the future, it will always be there. It will never cease to be. It is beyond birth and death. In the Samantabhadra prayer, it also says, even though the 3 realms were to be destroyed, there is no fear. There is no attachment to the 5 desirables of the senses. So when you truly see the nature of the mind, then it becomes just like that. Then even if the entire world would come to an end, would be destroyed, space cannot be destroyed. And your mind is indivisible from space. Just as Milarepa said, you must realize that mind is inseparable from space. And then there is no fear, even if the world were to be destroyed. So this is the meaning of the Dharmakaya is unborn, empty clarity without extremes. And so this explanation I just gave you, I am giving you on the basis of my own personal understanding of this. And then Khenpo Tenzin can also elaborate on these words. He has been extremely kind to make this effort to again and again explain things to us. So you also should consult him on the meaning of these words. And so there are these 2 words in this line that are very important, and that is without extremes. And so now in the Tibetan language, it's quite unique in some regards, because if you write down a short word like that, and so much meaning is actually expressed by just these 2 words, like these 2 words without extremes, or being free from extremes. So a lot of meaning is included in just a very short word. So here, for example, extremes, it refers to the various mistaken views, wrong views. There are around 360 wrong or mistaken views in this world. But ultimately, they fall into either being an eternalistic view or a nihilistic view. So these are the 2 great extremes. And so when we speak about being free of faults and possessing all qualities, then that's what we speak about. So being free of the two extremes of eternalism and nihilism is being free of all faults. And then that leads to possessing all enlightened or good qualities. So also in the Dzogchen aspiration prayer on the basis, path, and result, in there it speaks about that. So it says that the empty essence of the mind dispels the extreme view of eternalism. So then we say it is the nature of the mind is empty, so it is inexpressible. It is also said it's inexpressible in being beyond words and thought. So then that being said, then one might think that, well, then it doesn't exist. Some people say that, but then they fall into the extreme of nihilism, and that's also a mistaken view. It's not nothing too. The mind is still clear. So therefore in that prayer, then it continues and it says, the clarity, the natural clarity of the mind dispels the fault of nihilism. So the empty essence dispels the fault of eternalism, and the natural clarity dispels the fault of nihilism. And so that is what we call the true nature of the mind, which is this unity of clarity and emptiness, which is all pervasive, just like space. So this is the meaning of being without extremes. In brief, being without the extreme of either eternalism or nihilism. So that is a very important word. And so this concludes our understanding of the Dharmakaya. Thank you, everyone who has joined us on the live stream. I love you all, and long life.
Sanjo Senjo Rinpoche Machi Bana Ji Jeje Jiba Yang Ba Me Ba Yang Gong Le Gong De Me Wa Yo Yinji Tuan Lo Sanjo Senjo Rinpoche.
Can we read that in English on page, what is it? 30. Page 30. The yellow prayer book. May bodhicitta, the precious and supreme mind, arise in whom it has not yet arisen. Where it has arisen, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher.
Thank you.